Hello and welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we will look in detail at the 5 stages of grief, as shown by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross in 2011 in her book called On Death and Dying. She titled it The Loss Cycle. By the end of this lesson, you should know which stage of grief you are at currently, so you can start applying the coping mechanisms that we will look at in the next lesson to help you. There are a few coping mechanisms that can help anyone start the process of recovery after such a painful event as a divorce or a breakup. The first thing to do, obviously, is to accept that there is no going back. You will recognize as we go along in this course that it is much easier to recover from this pain after you have accepted that your relationship is truly over. Unless you accept that situation as it is, you will not be prepared to move on. We will look at how you can do that in due course. But now we'll be looking at what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says about the grieving process and the 5 stages of it. According to her, in her book on Death and Dying, which was published in 2011, there are 5 stages of grief after a loss of one's loved one, either through death or through a breakup or a divorce. This image here will explain quite briefly what the loss cycle is, but I will look into it in more detail. It starts off with denial, and then you are angry about it all. Then there is the bargaining stage, then the depression, and you don't quite understand how to move on, and then eventually the acceptance stage. So we'll look at stage 1, the denial. This is the stage where you don't want to believe or accept that there has been a breakup. And stage 2 is the anger stage. At this stage, you are very angry at what has happened, and that anger can be directed at yourself or mainly at your partner for leaving you or for creating this unpleasant and very painful situation for you. Stage 3 is the bargaining stage. At this stage, you are beginning to find the reasons for what happened. You could even start to blame yourself and think that if you had done one thing or other differently, maybe this breakup would not have happened. And stage 4 is the depression stage. You now know that the situation is not going to change. There's no going back. Maybe your ex has moved out and you are now alone with your kids, if you have any. You feel totally helpless and fearful of what the future would hold for you. And you are no longer able to sleep well. You jump at little disruptions and you're totally miserable and depressed. You are also crying a lot. Well, if it helps, just know that crying is a perfectly normal reaction when you're depressed or when you've had things done to you that you did not expect. Stage 5 is the acceptance stage. Now, it takes a while to get to this stage. It doesn't happen overnight. At this stage, you have stopped beating yourself up over what happened. You now accept that there is no going back. Maybe you are now going through the divorce, or you have reached an amicable arrangement with your partner. You are now living your separate lives. Is over. It's now time to start looking ahead to a future without your ex featuring prominently in it. Well, that's my hope for you. Accepting the situation does not necessarily mean that the emotion has gone away entirely. It hasn't. But somehow you can start to breathe a little easier now. It's at this stage that you are able to start making plans for a life without your ex in it. So that is what we are hoping to achieve on this course. A stage where you've accepted that nothing can bring your ex back, and you're now left on your own to plan your own life. And with my help, you can plan a much more beautiful and wholesome life for yourself. Here are the assignments for lesson 2. 1. Consider your own reactions to what has happened to you. What stage of grieving are you currently at? Get a notebook and write down all the things that you've felt at the very beginning of your breakup. For example, while at the denial stage, the anger stage, and the bargaining stage. What have you been doing to alleviate your pain? Well, you've done well for getting through Module 1, Lesson 2, where we covered the 5 stages of grief. In the next lesson, we'll look at some coping mechanisms or the strategies and tools that will enable you to start the process of recovery. Okay? I'll see you there. Take care of yourself.